And we're back with WSJ Lunch Break. I'm Wendy Bounds. Has HBO discovered the next Downton Abbey? I'm sure they hope so. Here with a look at the TV adaptation of Parade's End, which debuts next week, is Alexandra Alter. So, British playwright Tom Stoppard, he took on an enormous task trying to make this into 5 hours of TV. I mean, what were his hurdles of compressing this work?
Well, this is this is a massive modernist novel that was published between 1924 and 1928 by Ford Madox Ford, who's not incredibly well known. I mean, he's beloved by authors and scholars, but this isn't a particularly well-known story. It jumps back and forth in time. It has very slippery characters who are extremely appealing at one moment and reprehensible the next. So when you're trying to develop a narrative, I mean, the first thing he had to do was get it in chronological order. This is, you know, a story that occurs over 10 years and jumps around. So it took him more than a year to sort of sort out what order he would tell the story in. And then he had to really try to preserve some of the nuances of the story, not oversimplify it, and that was tricky.
And so it's going to be a 5 hours of this. And so in terms of it being like Downton Abbey, differing from Downton Abbey, what would be your take on that?
It's very different. It occurs in the same period. It's Britain in the 1920s. You know, it's and during the war, it's a time of great social upheaval. You have upper class characters again, but this doesn't have the sort of soapy, you know, flair of Downton Abbey, which right. You know, you can sort of relax into and watch. The director of Parade's End, you know, has sort of said this is more like Downton Abbey meets The Wire. You've got to pay attention.
Wow. My head's spinning with that.
You have to follow the plot points. You might have to even watch it again if you really want to understand it.
No multitasking and tweeting on the
None
iPhone while you're watching. You know, to be able to create something like this, I mean, an adaptation that did take this long, I mean, it may be tough, but it's part of the reason why so many writers, I imagine, are flocking to cable TV.
It's become the place for novelists right now. I mean, everyone wants to write an HBO show or adapt their work for HBO. Michael Chabon is doing it.
I don't know a writer who didn't watch The Wire and think, that's what I want to do,
exactly.
Right?
That's what Michael Chabon told me. People, and Salman Rushdie is working on a science fiction, you know, show that's original for Showtime. Novelists see TV as sort of a better medium in a way for their work because you have these long narrative arcs. You can really develop characters over seasons. It's, you know, a movie isn't going to really top 3 hours, and on cable you can have, you know, 12 hours. So.
But it's really tough still to get it actually made. I mean, they might buy the rights to it and put it in development, but to actually ever see that on the screen, I mean, that's an enormous leap.
It's very rare, and you've seen really good books get optioned and just, you know, fail despite everyone's best efforts, like The Corrections. I mean, they had a script that Jonathan Franzen wrote with Noah Baumbach.
For The Corrections.
Yes, for HBO, and they had, you know, it got to the pilot stage and they shot it with a cast that was fantastic with Maggie Gyllenhaal and Chris Cooper and Ewan McGregor, and they passed.
They passed. So yeah. Even for a book that big with that many big people attached to it, they passed in the end. Do you think this one, Parade's End, which did not get passed over, which actually did get made, will it get the Downton audience?
You know, I don't know that it will reach quite as big a group. I mean, it is more difficult source material. You know, it aired in Britain already last year. This is a joint BBC-HBO production, and it averaged about 2.5 million viewers there. I think Downton in Britain gets many times that. So it probably won't get quite as big an audience, but it got incredible reviews, and I think, you know, people that do watch it are gonna love it.
Great. All right, Alexandra, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank
More
you.
in the arena section.